something doesn't add up. Not in the tabloids, not in the royal biographies, and certainly not in the records that claim to tell Meghan Markle's story. Because when you look closely, really closely, there's a strange gap hiding in plain sight. A gap that shouldn't be there. The official version says one thing, Meghan, born August 4th, 1981. But scattered across the internet and even tugged inside old archives are quiet whispers of another truth. Older classmates, graduation years that don't quite align, photos that seem slightly off in timing. Is it all a misunderstanding? Or is there something deeper, something carefully managed behind Meghan Markle's true age? Today, we're opening the file that no palace press release ever wants discussed. This is the age mystery of Meghan Markle and why it refuses to disappear. Before diving into theories, we need to understand where this question even comes from, because none of this started with a rumor. It started with records. Public ones, old ones, digital archives that don't always agree. Over the years, researchers, reporters, and curious fans have sifted through a mountain of documents, school yearbooks, alumni databases, even official registries that list birth years. And somewhere in that paper trail, small contradictions began to appear. A class roster from Los Angeles with a year that doesn't match her supposed age. A college directory that seems to place her 1 or 2 years ahead of schedule. A high school program where her name appears alongside students born in the mid-70s, not the early 80s. It sounds trivial, a missing line here, a different date there, but together, these fragments form a puzzle. The more you compare, the more the edges blur. Records overlap, but not cleanly. Different archives, different dates, and the question becomes less about what is written and more about why the details don't align. For every official document confirming 1981, there's another artifact that quietly disagrees. And that disagreement, small as it looks, is what's kept this topic alive for years. Here's where things start to get strange, because once you step beyond the paperwork and look at the people, the classmates, the friends, the circles, the timeline begins to shift. Many of the students who shared hallways with Meghan during her early school years are now comfortably in their 50s. Some have long careers, grown children, and social media milestones that suggest they graduated well before someone born in 1981 ever could have. At first, that might sound like coincidence. After all, classes overlap, birthdays vary by months, sometimes years. But when several of those same classmates post reunion photos with dates pointing to the mid-90s, not the late ones, the math starts to get interesting. If Meghan were truly born in 1981, she would have been roughly 15 in 1996. Yet, a few classmates tagged in those same photos appeared to have graduated by then. Either everyone around her was older, or the timeline doesn't fit as neatly as we've been told. Of course, social media posts and faded yearbooks aren't courtroom evidence, but they do raise a pattern, a quiet, consistent one, of Meghan being slightly ahead of where her official age places her. And once that pattern appears, it's hard to unsee. One archive leads to another, one friend list to a graduation date, and before long, the 1981 line begins to wobble. A harmless clerical error? Or the beginning of a narrative carefully maintained? Either way, the classmates are where the mystery first starts to breathe. Once the chatter began, the theories followed fast. Not just from tabloids, but from obscure blogs, forums, and even archived web pages that date back more than a decade. The most persistent claims circle 3 possible years: 1975, 1976, and 1977. Each tied to a different breadcrumb. One version cites a now-deleted alumni list that placed Meghan among students born in the mid-70s. Another points to an early Hollywood casting sheet where her playing age was curiously listed as mid-30s, at a time she was supposedly in her late 20s. And then there's the theory drawn from a 1990s yearbook line, one that would make her roughly 4 to 5 years older than her official profile suggests. Individually, none of these prove anything. Together, they form a pattern that fans of royal timelines can't stop debating. What's more curious is how every mention of those alternate years vanishes just as quickly as it appears. Archived pages disappear, forum threads go silent. A quiet digital cleanup, or pure coincidence? Even entertainment outlets that once carried early biographical blurbs, the kind agencies send to press kits, have since been updated or removed entirely. By the time Meghan entered the global spotlight, the story had settled firmly on 1981. Every official profile matched it. Every royal statement repeated it. And yet, the older claims remain preserved in screenshots, tucked away on fan servers and deep dive Reddit threads that refuse to let them die. Maybe they're just relics of sloppy data entry, or maybe they were corrected for a reason. Fact check note. Verify existence and archival status of alleged alumni listing, 1975 to 1977. Confirm dates of agency press materials pre-2010. Official documents are supposed to end speculation. They draw clean lines, stamp official seals, and close the case. Except in this story, they don't. Because even official records linked to Meghan Markle have raised eyebrows, not for what they say, but for what changed after they were filed. When Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor was born in May 2019, his birth certificate seemed routine. A royal baby, a line of titles, the usual paperwork. But less than a month later, something shifted. An amendment quietly appeared, removing Meghan's first and middle names, Rachel Meghan, and leaving only Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. It looked, on paper, like a simple clerical adjustment. Yet to observers, it sparked another round of speculation. Why alter a document so mundane, so minor, unless image control mattered more than accuracy? Kensington Palace insisted the change was dictated by the palace, not Meghan herself. Others close to her said the opposite, that it was a decision made without her input. Two narratives, one form, and not a single matching explanation. To many, this edit wasn't about a name at all. It was a glimpse of how the Sussex image was already being managed. Every word, every title, every trace of record fine-tuned for presentation. And when that mindset is applied to personal details, age included, people start asking what else might have been edited along the way. One quiet revision, one public contradiction. It didn't prove the age theory, but it showed, unmistakably, that not everything written in ink stays that way. If documents can be rewritten, photographs can be reintroduced. And over the years, Meghan Markle's old photos have surfaced in curious waves, always arriving at just the right moment. A smiling yearbook shot released the same week as a major interview. A school portrait recirculated online days before a new documentary dropped. Each one feels nostalgic, harmless, even endearing, but their timing tells another story. In royal media, nothing appears by accident. Images are chosen, cleared, and coordinated, especially when they shape public memory. And Meghan's images have always been part of a careful choreography. Early school pictures, once buried in family scrapbooks, suddenly appeared on fan blogs and news sites years after her wedding. Not leaked, but shared, just enough to reset a narrative. Each new image softly re-anchors her story to the official timeline. The teenage years, the college phase, the ascent into Hollywood. But there's something subtle beneath the surface. When the metadata of some of those scans is traced, their upload dates often match moments of heightened scrutiny, legal disputes, press controversies, or fresh rumors about her background. That rhythm, that timing, feels strategic. Not necessarily deceitful, but deliberate. It suggests a hand guiding which parts of the past we're meant to see and when. Because in the age of image control, pictures don't just capture history, they curate it. And for someone whose life has become a brand, the release of a single photo can do what 100 press statements never could. Patterns don't lie. Timing does. Because every time a major legal or PR moment hits the Sussex timeline, the age mystery comes roaring back. It's almost rhythmic. When Meghan's half-sister Samantha Markle filed her defamation lawsuit in 2022, threads on social media began resurfacing the age question within days. Old screenshots reappeared, clipped interviews started circulating again, and even tabloid sites quietly updated their biography sections only to revert them later. The same thing happened during earlier media storms. When Meghan and Harry stepped back from royal duties in 2020, an archived version of her alleged high school roster briefly went viral. Then, gone. Deleted, blurred, or marked as unverified. To the casual observer, it looked like noise, internet chaos doing what it does best. But to anyone tracking patterns, it felt orchestrated, almost as if certain narratives were being amplified just long enough to distract from something else entirely. The legal filings, the press responses, the sudden bursts of attention, they move together like tides pulled by the same unseen moon. And whether those waves come from critics looking to undermine her or from strategists steering the conversation, the result is the same. The public starts talking about Meghan again, not as a mother or philanthropist, but as a mystery to be solved. Because in the media world, nothing spreads faster than speculation dressed up as investigation. And nothing resets an image faster than a new headline to drown out the last. Once a story leaves one corner of the internet, it doesn't stop, it echoes. A single headline on a small entertainment blog can travel through hundreds of platforms in a matter of hours. Here's how it usually happens. An outlet publishes a short piece. Is Meghan older than she claims? Often citing anonymous insiders or archived documents. Within minutes, aggregator sites pick it up. They trim the language, add a splashier title, and link back for context. Then come the international gossip columns, the morning talk shows, and finally the YouTube commentary circuits. What started as a handful of lines turns into a feedback loop, repeated, reworded, and reposted until it feels real. Each repetition strips a little nuance away. A rumor becomes a claim becomes a report. And by the fifth or sixth cycle, it's suddenly news. It's not unique to Meghan. Every royal faces it. But in her case, amplification feels unusually persistent, almost algorithmic. Search data shows spikes every few months, each one tracing back to a single spark. An article, a tweet, a thumbnail with the words, "age exposed." This is how modern myth-making works. No grand conspiracy, no secret cabal, just the mechanics of attention. Stories that feed curiosity rise faster. And Meghan's narrative, with its perfect blend of glamour, rebellion, and contradiction, is algorithm gold. Whether intentional or not, the cycle keeps her name alive, and the mystery unsolved. After tracing records, classmates, theories, edits, and echoes, one question remains. Do the pieces actually fit? On paper, Meghan Markle's official birth year of 1981 still holds firm. It's on her passport, her legal filings, her public biographies. Every legitimate record available to journalists today supports it. And yet, the doubts linger, not because of what's proven, but because of what feels inconsistent. The inconsistencies aren't huge. They're subtle. The sort of gaps that could easily come from outdated paperwork or misfiled data. But when they keep reappearing, people start reading intention into coincidence. Think about the timeline. An amended document here, a conveniently timed photo there. The same few classmates turning up in archives from earlier years. Each detail is small, but the collective impression is bigger than the evidence itself. And that's where the story lives, in the space between fact and perception, the gap where royal narratives thrive, because perception is power. For supporters, these rumors are nothing more than tabloid noise. For critics, they're clues in a long-running act of image management. But for everyone watching, they reveal something deeper about how modern royalty functions. It's not just about what's true, it's about what's believed to be true. And as long as the contradictions, however tiny, remain unresolved, Meghan Markle's real age will stay less a number and more a mirror reflecting how each of us see her story. At this point, the age question almost stops being about years at all. It becomes something larger, something about control. Because Meghan Markle isn't just a public figure, she's a brand. Every photograph, every headline, every carefully worded statement is part of an image that's been curated for over a decade. Long before royal life, Meghan built her reputation on precision. Her old lifestyle blog, interviews, and advocacy work all showed the same message: intentionality. Nothing casual, nothing unplanned. So when her public image collided with the royal machine, a system obsessed with hierarchy and presentation, two versions of control met head-on. And that's why the age mystery endures. Not necessarily because it's true, but because it symbolizes the ongoing battle over narrative ownership. If the palace controls one version of her story, Meghan controls another. Between them lies the media, hungry for whatever version keeps the clicks coming. The obsession with her birth year isn't about birthdays, it's about authenticity versus performance, about how much of a public life can still belong to the person living it. For some viewers, the whole thing is trivial. For others, it's proof of how fame can warp even the simplest details. Either way, the conversation reveals how every modern royal, especially one who walked away, is trapped in a constant cycle of defining and defending who they are. Because in this world, identity isn't inherited, it's negotiated. And the truth? It's whatever the louder story decides it to be. So where does that leave us? After years of headlines, theories, and online investigations, Meghan Markle's official story remains unchanged. Born August 4th, 1981, verified, printed, and protected. But the doubts haven't disappeared. They've simply evolved. Because when you strip away the speculation, what's left isn't a missing document, it's a question about trust. Do we believe what's written because it's official? Or do we question what's official because too many details feel rehearsed? Maybe the age mystery says less about Meghan and more about the world watching her, a culture addicted to uncovering inconsistencies even when they don't matter. Maybe it's the price of a story told too perfectly. Every time the noise fades, a new headline revives it. Every denial just fuels the next round of curiosity. And so the mystery lives on, not as a fact to be proven, but as a reminder of how easily a public life can turn into a puzzle. In the end, whether she's 44 or 41 or exactly 43 isn't the point. The real story is why we keep looking. If you found this breakdown fascinating, hit subscribe and stay tuned, because next time we're digging into another royal contradiction, the one moment that nearly exposed the truth about Meghan and Harry's secret deal with the palace. Don't blink, that story changes everything.